Hi there. In the previous Hi there. In the previous video, we had explained that when you want to launch an instance, there are a couple steps that are required in the AWS dashboard. When you click upon launch instance, there are a couple of steps that are highlighted to be done. First was choose AMI, which we had explained in the previous video, and after selecting your AMI, then you need to choose an instance type. So if we choose, suppose, a community AMI over here, and we choose an Amazon Linux operating system, and I'm just going to select the very first one over here. Now the second step that we need to do is we need to choose an instance type. So let's understand a bit more. What does it mean to choose an instance type? Now for understanding AWS EC2 instance types, we're going to go over two things. First of all, what are EC2 instance types? And secondly, what are the important terms useful for the exam? Now before we go into what are EC2 instance types, understanding at least having the knowledge of EC2 instance types is important because a lot of questions will come due to the kind of knowledge required from the various domains. For example, in the domain designing resilient architectures and designing a multi-tier architecture solution, it is important to be able to select an appropriate compute service based on certain requirements presented in the question. Secondly, for domain 2, identify elastic and scalable compute solutions for workload. As a solution architect, you will be presented questions that require to select the appropriate instance based on compute requirements. And finally, to design cost-optimized architectures, you need to determine the most cost-effective Amazon EC2 billing options for different workloads. So understanding EC2 instance types are critical for a lot of the questions that will appear in the exam. Now let's go over what are EC2 instance types. The official AWS documentation states that instance type is what you specify. The instance type that you specify determines the hardware of the host computer used for your instance. Okay, so what does it mean? As we explained in our previous videos, right? The virtual machine is basically created from the physical host. Now, when we in the dashboard, we saw that when you need to select and create and launch an instance, first you select your Amazon machine image, which is the operating system, and after that you need to choose instance type. The instance type basically is the kind of hardware, which is the CPU, the RAM, and the virtual storage that will be used for your virtual machine. So depending upon your requirements for your CPU, RAM, and storage, based on the requirements of your instance, accordingly a physical host will be allocated to you, and that will be your instance type. Now each instance type offers different compute, memory, and storage capabilities, and these are grouped in an instance family based on these capabilities. So selecting an instance type based on the requirements of the application or software that you plan to run on your instance. This is the critical part that you should know as a solution architect, that you need to select an instance type based on the requirements of the application or software that you are planning to run for your enterprise. Now let's go over the various instance families. So there are 5 main instance families. First of all, general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized, and accelerated computing instances. Now for the purposes of the exam, it is not so critical that you remember each and every instance type family alphabet. But what is important for the exam is that you know what a general purpose instance category is and what are the use cases that can support this particular instance type. Because when the questions will be presented in the solution architect exam, they will ask questions related to how to solve problems for a specific use case, and based on that you need to choose the appropriate instance category. So general purpose instances provide a balance of compute, memory, and networking resources. Okay, among them you have the instance type families. You have the M series and the T series. Okay, and the use cases that are served are small and mid-sized databases, gaming, microservices, development, build, test, and staging environments. For the exam, just remember these keywords. So small and mid-sized databases, simulation modeling, simple gaming, application servers and web servers, microservices, development, build, test, and staging environments. These use cases would be served by a general purpose instance category. Secondly, we have our compute optimized. Compute optimized are ideal for compute bound applications that benefit from high performance processors. the compute optimized belong to the C series of family of instance types. The use cases that are important. So anytime in the solution architect exam, if you read use cases such as batch processing, media transcoding, high performance web servers, which is distinct from a general purpose application servers, high performance web servers, dedicated gaming servers, and machine learning, then you can consider compute optimized. When it comes to memory optimized, naturally it's designed to deliver fast performance for workloads that process large data sets in memory. So that is the obvious identifier to when to select a memory optimized instance. Memory optimized is basically R category of instance type family. And the keywords that you need to recall in terms of use cases when choosing a memory optimized instance are using it for a relational data or NoSQL database, distributed web scale, in-memory caching, in-memory databases, and applications that perform real-time processing of big unstructured data. Anytime you have these kind of keywords in the exam question, then you should try to know that you need to use, if you see the words in-memory, and real-time processing of big unstructured data, then you need to select a memory optimized instance, or at least it will be quite obvious that you may have to use a memory optimized instance. Now, storage optimized instance, they are designed for workloads that require high sequential read and write access to large data sets on local storage. The instance type families are starting with D, H, and I. Okay, not critical to remember that. However, what are critical are the use cases. So words like massive parallel processing, data warehouse. So words like data warehouse, distributed file systems, file storage, large data lakes, data intensive workloads for again distributed file systems, and applications requiring sequential access to large amounts of data, applications that require high throughput access to large quantities of data. And this one is particularly important: high frequency online transaction processing systems, relational databases, NoSQL databases, data warehouse applications, once again distributed file systems. So the words like distributed file systems, parallel processing, data warehouses, large data lakes, these kind of use cases are served by storage optimized instances. Finally, we have the accelerated computing instances. It's designed for compute intensive workloads, and this one is easy. It starts with the G series of instance family. Over here, the use cases that are served by accelerated computing are to perform functions such as floating point number calculations, graphic processing, data pattern matching. Okay. Now, some of the important terms that you should know for the exam. In the general purpose instance family, we have burstable instance. EC2 burstable instance basically are from the T3A and T3 instance types. And what a burstable instance does is basically that a normal general purpose instance provides a baseline CPU performance. Okay. However, a burstable instance has the ability to burst above the baseline at any time for as long as required. So basically, this burstable instance gives you a burst of performance when required, because traditionally, or at least what has been normally seen for general purpose instance types, the CPU utilization is just at a specific baseline. For compute optimized and memory optimized instances, you may at times require selecting a bare metal instance. Bare metal instance such as C5 metal for compute optimized and R5 metal for memory optimized. They provide the applications with direct access to the physical resources of the host server, such as processors and memory. So the use of the bare metal instance helps in further enhancing performance. And finally, within accelerated computing, you have GPU based instances which provide access to the NVIDIA GPUs with thousands of compute core, and it's basically used for graphic applications, game streaming, 3D application streaming, and other graphic workloads. So these terms are important when trying to determine what kind of EC2 instance type to select for specific workloads or use cases. Now, in the next video, we will go over EC2 pricing and how it can be used to answer questions related to domain 4 design cost optimized architectures. So I hope you found this video useful. Please like and subscribe, and wait for our next video. Thank you.